In the sacred stories of the land, where wind speaks and stars remember, there is one who walks between chaos and creation, Coyote. To some, he is a fool, to others, a god, but to all, he is the trickster, wild, unpredictable, and woven deep into the heart of Native American mythology. Across the vast lands of North America, from the Ute to the Caddo, one tale rises above the rest, a haunting story of how Coyote brought death into the world. This is no mere myth. It is a reflection of nature's balance, a mirror to the human soul, and a chilling reminder that every choice echoes through eternity. Why do we die? Why can't the dead return? What did Coyote do that sealed the fate of all living things? Today, we follow the footsteps of a spirit who dared to defy the natural order and doomed us all. In the sacred dawn of creation, all things flourished in harmony. The rivers flowed clean, the forests whispered with wisdom, and the people knew no sorrow. The Great Spirit had shaped a world teeming with vitality, where illness could strike but never kill. Accidents occurred, but healing always followed. Death was unknown. Life was endless. But as generations passed and not a single soul departed, the earth began to suffer under the weight of immortality. The land, generous though it was, had its limits. Crops grew thin. Game grew scarce. Even the skies seemed to sigh under the burden of an ever-growing multitude. The wise ones, medicine men, seers, and spiritual leaders turned to fasting, prayer, and vision-seeking. They cried out to the Creator, "What must be done to restore balance?" In response, the gods called forth a great council of spirits and divine beings to deliberate the fate of the world. Some among them spoke gently. Perhaps death could be introduced, but only as a temporary rest. The dead would return, like the moon waxes after waning gone, but never truly lost. Others, more stern and resolute, insisted that death must be final. A true passing would make space for the unborn, for the renewal of life, and for the health of the earth. Without such balance, even paradise would become a prison. And among them, silent at first, but always watching, stood Coyote. The gods and spirit beings debated the question for a long time. Some argued that when a person died, they should return after a few days, just as the moon disappears and returns. In this way, families would not suffer permanent loss, and the cycle of life could still be honored without finality. Others believed that death should be final, that the soul must journey on to another world to allow room for new life. Among those in attendance was Coyote, always observant, always meddling. He listened to the debates, not with a heart for justice or wisdom, but with a mind spinning in self-interest and a flair for chaos. He was both fascinated and disturbed by the idea of temporary death. He argued that if people never truly died, the world would become too crowded, resources would be consumed, and suffering would increase. Yet his motives were not entirely altruistic. As with many Coyote stories, his actions were driven by impulse, cunning, and a strange desire to be pivotal in cosmic decisions. Finally, the spirits decided to put the matter to a test. They would take a vote and then cast a stone into the river to seal the outcome. If the stone floated, then people would return to life after death. If the stone sank, death would be final. The spirits agreed to this symbolic act. They chose a sacred moment to perform the ritual. As the crowd of spirit beings, animals, and ancestral people gathered near the river, the tension was palpable. One of the elder spirits picked up a stone and prepared to drop it gently into the water, intending it to float. But just as he was about to release it, Coyote snatched another stone and hurled it violently into the river. The stone splashed and sank instantly. Gasps filled the air. The act had been done. The symbol was clear. "Now, when people die, they will not come back," Coyote declared. "The stone has sunk. The decision is made." The spirit beings were outraged. Some wept. Others cursed Coyote for his impulsiveness. But none could reverse the symbol. The decision had been made and sealed by the act. From that moment onward, death became a final passage. Souls would travel to the spirit world, never to return to their bodies. People began to age. Illness returned with a vengeance. The grieving began. The balance had shifted. Yet in time, the gods and even the people began to understand the wisdom, however bitter, in Coyote's action. With death came renewal. With loss came appreciation. With endings came the opportunity for growth. The earth found balance. Populations became sustainable. And the cycle of life moved forward with solemn beauty. This myth, as tragic and unsettling as it may seem, is not merely a tale of mischief gone wrong. It is a profound lesson in cosmic order and the price of existence. Coyote's act, while seemingly cruel, mirrors the harsh truths of nature. Without death, life would stagnate. Without endings, there can be no beginnings. Coyote's role is emblematic of many human traits: impulsiveness, recklessness, but also vision and transformation. He is the one who dares to do what others will not. In some versions of the tale, Coyote weeps afterward, realizing the weight of what he has done. In others, he laughs, vanishes, or walks away indifferently, leaving the world to deal with the consequences. For the Ute and Caddo, and many other tribes who tell variations of this story, Coyote is not a villain in the modern sense. He is an agent of change. He makes the hard decisions when others falter. And in doing so, he reminds us that the forces shaping our lives are often beyond our control or at the mercy of chaotic energies we do not understand. Interestingly, similar myths appear in other cultures around the world. In African, Polynesian, and even some European traditions, stories exist of messengers or tricksters who seal humanity's mortality by acting rashly or intentionally sabotaging divine messages. These tales serve a similar purpose: to explain the origin of death and to give meaning to the universal experience of loss. The story of Coyote and the stone that sank is therefore not only an indigenous American origin myth, but part of a global narrative arc that explores why we must say goodbye, why grief exists, and why every life is precious because it is finite. Coyote Creates Death is one of the darker tales in the Trickster's mythology, but also one of the most necessary. It reminds us that not all losses are tragedies, and not all endings are evil. In a world that once knew no death, it was Coyote, flawed, impulsive, but essential, who ushered in mortality. And in doing so, he brought balance. The story speaks to a truth we often resist: that change is uncomfortable, but often necessary. When life becomes stagnant, overcrowded, or unsustainable, something must shift. Even the most sacred things, life itself, must sometimes yield to greater wisdom. Coyote's act, though harsh, mirrors choices we face in our own lives. There are moments when we must let go of people, of plans, of old ways of being to make room for what comes next. Clinging to what cannot last only deepens suffering. Instead, we are called to surrender with reverence, to trust the rhythm of creation. This myth also invites us to rethink our relationship with death. Rather than seeing it as a cruel thief, the story suggests death as a sacred part of life's design, a doorway rather than a dead end. It challenges us to live more consciously, more gratefully, because our time is not infinite. So what can we take from Coyote's tale? Let go when it's time. Respect the cycles of nature. Make hard choices when no one else will. And above all, embrace life with full awareness that it is fleeting and beautiful because of it. In this myth, as in life, the stone has sunk and the ripples continue. It is not the end, but the beginning of wisdom. If you enjoyed this video and want to support more content like this, please consider leaving us a super thanks donation. Every contribution helps us create deeper stories and share powerful myths with you. Your support means the world. Thank you for being part of this journey.